Hey, I want to make a quick video regarding these Motas radiator guards. These are really well made. When I took these out of the package, I was kind of blown away. I put a lot of different brands on over the years, and these are really nice. Got these 6 screws that hold them together. Once you pull the 6 screws, you literally just do the 2 bolts on the radiator, and the casing slides around the radiator without even draining the coolant, and then you just put this front protector on. And for the price, I mean, these were just over $100 for the pair, and they're super well made. These came coated black. These came from Turkey. Took 9 days, and I got these, and that was over the weekend. So technically, it's probably 7 business days. So these guys did a really good job. Their coating's really good too. I believe it's a black powder coating, and it looks extremely sharp. I can't wait to put the other one on. Right now, I'm in the midst of modifying the steering stops and the radiator, so I didn't fine tune them just yet. That's why if you notice this little bit of a grind mark, I did that on purpose. That's just to clear the fork. So I got to take a little bit out, but that's only because I'm going extreme on the steering. But that's just me. That has nothing to do with this company. They did such a really good job. When you look at the quality, it's kind of mind-blowing. They seem to be very rigid, and they're going to last a long time. Okay, this is going to be the portion where we adjust the steering stops. If this is not of something of interest, please just skip along. If you are, and you're looking to get your steering to have a much tighter radius, well, then this is the video for you. Now, most people would never have to do this. Now, if you've noticed on my steering stop, there was like a 6mm thickness nut behind this button head. Most people, they'll eliminate this and they'll just put in a regular Allen key stud. I think it's like an 8mm by 125. I decided not to do that. I decided to keep the button head, remove the nut, and then screw it all the way in. I actually re-tapped the threads just a touch and then cleaned it up. And then I screwed that all the way into it, bottomed out. And then I modified the radiators to fit. And now I got it to turn as far as I feel is necessary and work really well. Most people would disagree on why we're doing this and is it really necessary, but we do a lot of downhill mountain bike racing, and we need a tight turning. So as fast as these bikes go downhill, we need to navigate between trees and a lot of obstacles, and the turning is very necessary. And then, since we've been navigating on some of these electric bikes, I mean, they turn amazing because they're very similar to the downhill bikes as well. So I modified the one on the KTM and it works great, and that's what I recommend we do with this bike. So I mean, just to give you an idea of the profile that we have on this, I mean, we could turn this thing in really far now. It made a huge difference on how it is. Now, there's a full disclosure on this. I really don't recommend anybody actually do this. If this isn't something that is necessary for you, you can just make some basic subtle adjustments. If I go on this side, I took the nut off, but you can see there's some spacing. There's like, I don't know, 4 threads showing through. And if I turn the steering wheel, the handlebars, you could see there's a little bit of clearance. I'm not hitting the radiator. But we're going to make that go all the way in. So the goal is we're going to turn that all the way in. We're going to figure out on the radiator where it makes contact. Now, normally, I've done this in the past. It's not something I actually agree is the best way to do it. But on a $10,000 brand new bike, the only other modification I could technically do is either shim the radiators back about 6mm, maybe even 8. And by the time I looked into it and I was going to modify the brackets, modify the guards, and then I'll show a picture, but the gas tank is really close to the radiator. So if I did that, I would actually compromise it between the heat from the radiator against the gas tank. Now, you could also lower the radiator. That's another trick they usually do in motocross. And it was too close to the pipe. When I started to look, what was going to happen is I know I could stick my fingers perfectly under between, there's a nice little gap, an air gap. But the pipe will move. God forbid anything hits the pipe, then I'll hit the radiator. And, then I'll convex the radiator, and it's weak on the bottom here because there's really no protection. So to me, that wasn't an option. I didn't want to cut the collars off and re-weld them, which I could easily do, but to grind it down, cut it, re-weld it, and then paint it red, I was going to go with this option. I've already done this on a few of these bikes already. It worked out really well. Again, full disclaimer, I don't recommend you actually do this, but I'll show you what I did. And I hope it really helps you. That's the only reason I'm doing the video. And that way it makes you a little better in the tight woods, single track, and you know, if you're doing some of those hard enduro type things, as much as I hate to use that phrase. Here we go. Here's another view. So this is the left side. You could see the arch in the radiator tank itself. And that's where we're going to change that one. Okay, so we turned in the steering stop all the way. There is no gap, no space. It's just the factory button head. I did put a mark, as you can see right there, on the radiator, Sharpie. And what that mark indicates is the point of contact with the handlebars, with a fork. When I turn the handlebars, with a fork, like, contacts the radiator. But that's the center. It's tough to see from this visualization, but you can see right there. Now, keep in mind, the fork leg turns in an arc. So it's arcing in like this in a circular motion. So it's not straight in. So when you go to make your mark and modify the radiator, it's not going to go straight in. It's going to go on an arc. That's why if you look at this on the left side, you can see how the fork leg's starting to arc in, continues to arc in. And then you could see there's still a gap where the radiator is, but you could see the modification I made is really close to the edge. And that's what we're going to do with the other one as well. Now, granted, if you do this, keep in mind, like, I have my radiator guards on. And if you look at the way these guards are set up, they're behind my radiator. So the thickness of the guards, that looks like it's got to be at least almost a 1/4 inch thick. That's spacing my radiator away from the frame. So if I mod the radiator without those guards on, that modification is going to change if you do put guards on afterwards. So just legitimately just keep in mind that. Now, right now my radiator is solid. I could barely even, the whole bike will move. The guard moves a little bit, but they're pretty solid. They still have the rubber dampeners, the factory ones, and they're stacked there on the factory studs sticking out of the frame that the bolts are into. And they're tight. So they're really snug. So the next step is I'm going to show you how to heat the radiator and do some light impact. Now remember, it's kind of like that, you know, cut once, measure twice kind of thing. Just be very, very careful how you do this. And you want to stay on the angle. So you want to be on the angle of the fork. That's the whole goal. It's like we're going to customize this so it looks like it's actually factory. I did take the wire loom out and I put it up on the, kind of keep it up out of the way. And I did that so that the heat gun doesn't affect the wiring harness. So next step, modification. Okay guys, there's only 3 tools you need to do this operation. It only takes a few seconds, but unfortunately if you don't do it right, you will damage the radiator. Don't go too hard, don't go too far, okay? All you need is this, an axle socket. This happens to be a 36mm axle socket. It's very popular in automotive use, or a large socket if you can find something of that big. It's about, I'm going to say 2 inches in overall diameter across, just to give you a barometer. A regular hammer. I'm not using one of my nice ball peen snap-ons. I'm just using a regular framing hammer because just to show you, you could do this at home. Just obviously be careful. You don't want to hit the fork tube and you don't want to hit the radiator too hard. Like I said before, if you don't need to do this, don't do this. Obviously doing this on a press with a couple of wooden blocks is the smart way to do this. But I just want to show that you could do this at home. And if you just do it right and take your time and be patient, you'll get great results and it'll work perfect. So we're basically just going to heat this area without heating anything else. And then we're going to lightly tap. But we're going to do light taps. And then we're going to test it. And then we're going to do another light tap. And then we're going to test it. That's all it takes. It's that simple. It's that quick. Just don't hit it too far. Take your time. Be patient. Be smart about it. I know this is super cringy. It's super sketchy. This is the last thing I wanted to do to a $10,000 bike, but at the end of the day, I just wanted to get it done, put it back together. I know it works. I've done it before, and I've seen people do it before. That's how I learned it. Here we go. Heat gun. High heat. I'm only concentrating my heat right where that mark was. This is to make it so it just pushes in a little easier in this one section and the rest still maintains its strength. It doesn't take much heat. It's aluminum. The only thing is it will cool pretty quick. You're going to want to make sure that when you do impact this, like I said, hit it light, keep it on the same angle as the forks, and keep in mind that the forks do arc in. It's not straight back. It doesn't straight come back. It goes in towards like where the radiator hose is, if that makes any sense. If you're not confident enough to do this, either A, don't do it, or find a professional that can do it. That's hot enough. Angle. That's just a slight bend. Only difference is the harness wasn't on the other side. Let's get the right angle. Let's get the fork out of the way. I'm already starting to make a slight dent. It's touching. Let's assess. It's working perfect. I'm going to heat it again. I should have pulled this clip out of the way. There we go. Perfect. Okay. No issues. Okay, guys, you watch that in real time. That's what it looks like from behind. It's tough to get them both, but they do look even. And when I turn the handlebars, I'm trying to get a better view in there for you. Look at that. Like it was made for. There's actually a little extra gap, that little extra tippity tap kind of sent that in. Now, when I put the rest of the radiator guard brace across, it will touch as well. So there's going to be a slight piece I will lightly grind out with a grinder. Just very, very slight. It won't take much. Now, you see where I impacted, right? I know that looks like hell in a handbag. The secret is to make it match and blend in. Red Scotch-Brite. Watch this. Ready? You see the shininess. You just kind of, let's see, scratch it back and forth. Some circular motion. Kind of just work that in there. Kind of blends in. Again, I really don't recommend people do this. This was just for me personally. And I knew I was going to get, I already had a couple people ask me questions on how I did it. So I figured, you know what the hell, I'll make a video. If it helps you, it helps you. My whole goal with this whole series is if I can just help a couple of people and it helps you, that's fantastic. mission accomplished.